Hi, it's Kaz here from Everyday Property Investing, and I wanted to talk to you today about property investing like a pro. Is it good luck or is it good management? Now, some people think that buying property as an investment is simply a matter of choosing a house you like, buying it, renting it out. But if you listen, really listen to people who are successful property investors, you soon realise that there's more to investing than luck. Of course, many people have simply purchased a property without much thought or research, and over a period of time that property dramatically increased in value, turned out to be a good investment. That's fantastic. But if you're relying on luck in choosing the right strategy, choosing the right location, the right property, then you're really taking a risk that can go either way for you. Now, property investing, like any form of investing, has risks associated. Though thankfully, property, like some other investment vehicles, can be quite forgiving of some of the mistakes that you can make. And trust me, there are plenty of mistakes that you can make. For example, I'll run through a few of my own for you. The first place I ever purchased actually was a little one-bedroom unit in a suburb of Melbourne, in the eastern suburbs. And I had no idea, and I asked the real estate agent what I should pay for it. He promptly pulled out any scrap of paper he could find as fast as he could, gave me a pen, and told me exactly what I should write and sign the bottom of that piece of paper. So that's surely not a good idea to ask the real estate agent what you should pay for something. Another mistake I've made when I was purchasing a property is I didn't get a building inspection done on this particular property, and as it turned out, the house had no electricity meter. It had actually been cut out due to previous tenants illegally accessing the mains power to grow their marijuana stash. Now, thankfully, I found that out just before settlement and managed to get the vendor to pay the thousands of dollars it actually cost to have that situation rectified. But it's certainly a mistake. Another mistake I've made is when I actually purchased the first property I was going to buy to live in as a family home. I paid about $30,000 over what the market value actually was for the property because I hadn't done any research into that particular location. I've also purchased property in the wrong entity. I've purchased in my own name when it would have made a lot more sense to purchase in a trust. And certainly people often just go ahead and buy a property and don't actually think about what the correct entity would be for that property. And buying in the wrong entity can be an expensive mistake to try and rectify. Now, they're just some of the mistakes I've made. I spoke to Den about some of the mistakes he'd made. He said that buying off the plan, he bought a house off the plan, which took him about 18 months longer than scheduled to complete. He's also purchased property where he bought the property that looked nice rather than one that had the best returns. And also, buying property before you have your finances sorted out is another mistake that he'd mentioned. Now, before you start thinking that property investing is fraught with danger or that I've made an amazing number of errors, trust me, the mistakes I've made are common to many people who are starting out in property investing. And the important thing here is to recognise that these mistakes could have easily been avoided. They were simply mistakes made through lack of experience, lack of knowledge, and importantly, lack of process. Now, experience is something that is gained over time, and it's gained by taking action. In order to gain experience, you need to actually do something. So when it comes to investing, to gain experience, you need to invest. There's so many people out there who talk about investing, but they just never get around to actually doing anything or taking the first step. There's really no experience gained through procrastination. In terms of knowledge, once again, knowledge is gained through action. And the sorts of actions that you can take here are things like reading books, reading property magazines, reading property-related blogs or websites, seeking out professional assistance and advice, listening to property podcasts. I think I know a good one you might be interested in there. Watching property-related TV shows, attending property seminars, education events, taking a course, participating in local forums or property investing groups. Really immersing yourself in this sort of information will build up your knowledge and it will really motivate you to do something as well. Now, when it comes to process, this one's an interesting one because whereas experience and knowledge take time to acquire, process, on the other hand, well, even if you've only had a little experience or knowledge, process is something that anyone can put in place. Smart property investors follow a process. And it's more likely a series of processes throughout each stage of the research phase, the purchase phase, the management of their investment. Now, by having a process to follow, both beginner and experienced property investors really minimise their risk and maximise their success. Now, let's consider some of the sorts of processes that we're talking about here. In terms of the analysis phase, in the analysis or pre-purchase phase of buying an investment property, there's a series of things that you need to assess and analyse in order to be able to make the best decisions. Now, this includes your finances, so how much money do you have coming in, how much do you spend, what's available in terms of income that you have to support a property investment if you need to support it, how much can you afford to borrow. In terms of your strategy, what sort of investor are you? Are you active or passive? What's your risk profile? What's your goal with property investing, and what's the best way for you to get to that goal? Locations, in terms of analysing locations, you need to know where you want to be looking. What are the positive and negative factors that a location has? What are the best spots in the location? What sort of price should you be paying for this location? What sort of infrastructure is in this location or plan to be in the location? And in terms of the actual property itself, which type of property is best for you to invest in? What do you need to look at in a property to assess the best investment? What should you check to make sure the property is in the sort of condition that you want it to be? Now, in that pre-purchase or analysis phase, you need to look at all those sorts of things so that you can make the best decisions with the information that you've gathered. Now, in terms of the purchase phase, this is where we really get down to business. In the purchase phase of buying an investment property, there's a series of processes or checkpoints that you really need to consider as part of your due diligence or process. And this includes things like, how do I make an offer? What conditions do I include in my offer? How much should I be offering for this property? What do I do if my offer is accepted? Who should I get to inspect the property? How do I get the loan arranged? Do I get to inspect the property again before it settles? And what can I do in that settlement period to ensure a smooth transition and a minimal vacancy if it's something that I'm going to rent out? And in terms of the management process, now you own your own property. That's awesome. You're an investor. Are you all done? Well, of course, not quite. Who's going to manage your property? You need to think about a few more things here, like how do you find the best property manager? What sorts of fees are involved? How will they find you a good tenant? What role will you take in managing your property? And how would you actually go about managing the managers? Now, in summary, property investing isn't about luck. Successful property investing isn't about luck. And although you can have a successful investment without knowledge, experience, or good process, there are lots of mistakes you can make, and I've shared some of those with you here. Knowledge and experience can take some time to acquire and require you to take some action to make that happen. But you can put in place good process right now. Successful investors use a process or a series of processes to minimize their risks and maximize their success. And that's really what you need to be doing. I hope you've enjoyed this video. You can always read more about us at everydaypropertyinvesting.com, and we'll see you next time.